various viewpoints from various traders, different styles, analyzing markets, trading the markets, etc. All live, never Memorex. So, and also for the folks, particularly in the pit room, but for everybody for that matter, again, to help keep this project running and going and being able to provide all the content and expertise that we have, do consider, taking an evaluation over traders. Okay. They are competitive in terms of, other funders that are out there. So again, that will certainly help kind of keep the project up and running. So something that you may want to consider if you've never considered it before. Again, something to think about. That would be most appreciated by those folks over there trying to keep the lights on and trying to provide the best um,
Trump says we
product
have patriots,
and
but not that
educational
many. We
access
need them for
available.
ourselves
All right, so
too.
let's get into our presentation here today. All right, today is Wednesday, July 8th,
I asked if you
2026, and
were
this is our
interested
audio
in Ukraine
edition
missiles. So that's
to our
Trump
daily
saying
trade
they
strategy
don't have that
briefing.
many Patriot
Of
missiles
course, the
and some
regulators
cruise
require
missiles.
us to display the disclaimers, so I do this every
Also
day as
adds he
well.
thinks Ukraine will be able to
NFA
produce
compliance rule
Patriots quickly.
2-29C subparagraph 1. Again, you're all familiar with the risks associated with trading, right? And of course, past performance not indicative of future results. All right, so let's get that out of the way. That fulfills our obligation. All right, so today we're in the third inning of the 3-day cycle, final day of the cycle. And it's been, let's take a look at the overall broader view here. Everybody should be seeing our 60-minute chart with our various profiles on it. So for the most part, as you can always tell, over at least the course of a 5-day period, we've been in this kind of wide range.
Trump
We've seen
says
these
I would go
ranges,
to Ukraine at
before
the
over the
right time.
years. And
Says
it's just
can't
really
have a
just kind of
deadline for
a,
the war ending.
period of consolidation, uh, backing and filling, rotation. Remember, one key thing is that the market really is, market of sectors, right? Industries and so forth. So the market just simply rotates. Monies flow from various sectors, right? So although we do trade, whether you're trading the NQ directly, which is certainly much more concentrated, uh, or the ES, which again we primarily trade here. It's simply still a rotational market. Okay, so yes, markets can have some violent directional moves, which again, all that stuff offers us opportunity. Right. So we have to just be thinking about, we have to be somewhat agnostic. I certainly try to be agnostic about direction, but rather just kind of, working with the flows, s- right? Staying, of course, our key premise here is always staying in alignment with, directional biases, directional leans. All right. And I think that served us well, and it will continue to serve us, well over the coming, weeks, months, and years. All right. Trying to predict where markets are going to go, etc. Usually not really a successful strategy. Simply staying in alignment, though, can give you the better edge. Um, and again, we're following the elephants, right? The big boys. So they have, think about it. In all contexts, they have bigger fish to fry than we do. So we just kind of want to go along with them. That's kind of the key thing. Has always been, always will be. Right? But we do try to, when we do our analysis, and everybody has levels, right? So do we, right? Whatever we do, we have levels, and everybody in the marketplace can identify similar levels. So I don't know if anybody really has an open edge,
Iran says we'll
to
deliver,
that.
quote, immediate
But that
response to the
said,
purchase.
we do need to
Trump says we
reference
would buy Ukraine tanks.
areas where markets have spent a great deal of time, volume, commitment, right? So one of the things we've talked about recently in our PTG room is, volume as areas of commitment. And so looking at previous areas of high volume activity and moving that into today's, session, then we can see that, geez, I wonder, why that particular price stopped and reversed in in that particular zone. Well, most likely it's because there was some heavy traffic at a previous date. And again, the institutional players, they remember all of these levels, all of these zones, high trafficked areas, etc. It seems as though quite often a lot of the retail community just kind of doesn't really consider that, right? Again, my background from the institutional world, right, pushing into what we do here, right, is hopefully I bring that perspective, kind of the
Trump went
thought
asked if he
process
would
about
impose a
where
no-fly
the big
zone
boys,
over Ukraine, says if
the
it's
institutional
necessary.
players have done business, and where there's potential business to be had, right, on the in the current session. So, anyways, we see take a look at what we have here.
Went asked
Obviously,
if he would impose
this
a
range
no-fly zone
situation,
over Ukraine, says he
and
would
we got
impose
the
it
overnight
necessary for
downdraft
security.
here. Perhaps it's because we had some bombs flying there over in Iran. Could be, markets react. Oil's up a little bit around 74, gapping up this morning, right, from overnight. For whatever the reason is, doesn't really matter. As we discuss quite
Trump
often
says
in our
if we
room,
make
reasons
Iran
don't
deal,
really
it
matter,
may not stick.
right? Markets are going to move. We want them to move. We want to identify opportunities, certainly with that movement. So that's kind of the overall premise, right? And that just bleeds into every single day. Today, though, is a cycle day 3. So a couple things with the cycle day 3. Number one, uh, since we have a cycle day 1 established up at the 38s, 75 38s, we see here that price is now, below that. And the price with the move overnight pushed all the way down into the violation levels, right, as you can see here, as well as the cycle day 1 projected average decline. Okay, so there are ranges that if this was a cycle day 1, which of course it's not, but if it was, what would be the average decline range projection? And that's what we post up here on a cycle day 3. It calculates it from previous cycle day 1 ranges. So it actually puts out a projection of what the potential of a cycle day 1 would be. And you can see down here, right, prices kind of moved down right into those areas. Buyers found,
The
responsiveness
Italian Prime Minister
and
Meloni
absorbed
says
those
we will recycle
sellers, and
major
we
spending
pushed back up
commitments, but
since.
we will decide
Right
what to
now,
do
the
and proceed
goal
with the
here,
priorities.
all
Trump
right,
once again
NQ
says
has
we will
not yet.
probably
Okay,
strike
all
Iran
right.
tonight.
So the goal here, though, is in terms
Trump
of
adds we
cycle,
will probably knock out more
is to
votes tonight.
reclaim, all right, the cycle day 1 low, which is this red line here at 38.25s.
Says
All right.
not a thing
Historically,
Iranian can
now
melt
that
us.
has a 93% historical track record for price, reclaiming that or being above that level sometime during today, right? All it really needs to do is just
Trump says we're not
knock its
attacking
nose
at
above
price
that
levels
level,
such as bridges.
okay? And that's for the
Just to
statistics.
repeat,
So
Trump says
a
we're not
dip
attacking
down
at the highest
in during
levels
the
such as
overnight
bridges.
provide real good opportunity for those nimble,
Bank of America
particularly during the overnight,
hands
a very, very early
520
morning
million
here,
credit lines
to
to
establish a
OpenAI
long,
in bid
all right,
for
looking
IPO
for that
slot.
move back up there. So yes, the CD1 low
Further
is
context,
key.
Bank of America
All
bankers
right.
neutral on
E-mini
OpenAI
Sniper
loan in
asks
bid
over
to
here
secure slots
whether or
for
not it's key.
IPO.
But in terms of the cycle, it's
Trump
absolutely
says
key.
if we have
Right.
to,
So the
we'll
key
take out
is,
high level
the
targets.
the
Says Trump,
cycle
if we
1
have to, we
low
will take out high level targets
establishes,
for
again,
oil.
based upon cycle
If we have
dynamics
to,
now,
we'll take out electricity, water,
is the
but
key
Joe
level based
Manchin
upon
says we may take over Cog Island.
measuring how far the next
Says would
rally
hate to
will go.
strike
Now, the price
desalination plants, but may
did
have to.
in this case did initiate a low earlier on the cycle day 1 early in the session, and then we ended up getting a rally. right? So that's kind of the
NATO
production
sector
there.
Rutus is the timing
Yesterday,
of
of
the
course, was
next
cycle
NATO
day
summit is
two,
still
and
to be
then typically
decided,
we look for some
as
sort
it
of
will be in
backing
Albania.
infill consolidation. We spoke about this in our community yesterday. Also, one of the um, ideas there on a cycle day two is prices can come down and retest the cycle day one low. As you can see, it did that, perfectly yesterday. And then what happened? We got a bounce off of that. All right. So between the cycle day one, cycle day two, everything worked out again according to kind of textbook ish plan. Of course, the overnight, today, given the overseas activity, all right, obviously, made the market a bit nervous, right? But ultimately, the market's still in this buy the F and dip mode, right? And even in this case here, even though we got a downdraft overnight, we've seen some similar downdrafts over the recent days, last week. Bottom line is markets are still looking to buy the dip. Okay, haven't yet made new all-time highs. All right, that would need to clear this current range, but for the most part, still the buy the F and dip uh, algorithm is still clearly in effect. All right, so that's the kind of the skinny on the mini coming in this morning.
Trump says
We'll check out what the opening range will
Wojtkowski could talk
do
with
for us.
Iran, just not
Beginning the
soon enough.
session though, overall, as you can see here on our execution charts, and we'll discuss those as the
Adds maybe a
session
big catch. That's
unfolds,
Trump adding
where the
maybe a big
opportunities
attack.
will be. All right. And again, for those relatively new coming in from the pit room, we do follow very strict protocols in terms of what the type of trades we're looking for, and we'll kind of outline some of those as the morning progresses as well. All right, so that's the skinny on the mini. We're starting the day off pretty neutral now after that move down and back up. You can see the
Trump
24-hour
says we
VWAP
may put down the blockade on
around
Iran.
the 675
Just to repeat, Trump
tens,
says we may put down the blockade
and
on Iran. Hegseth, the Secretary of War Hegseth, says tonight we'll hit deeper if we need to
and
in
that's
Iran.
where we are in
Dr.
terms
Trump
of
says
our
the blockade
line
will
in
only
the
apply for
sand
Iran.
today. I believe it was at the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was 75.40. It was a bit higher, right? And so again, that would be near to the cycle day one low, which is around the 30s, and trying to recapture that, right? Reclaim that area, right? Very good. All right, so let's see what happens here. Nice and slow and steady. If you have questions throughout the morning, simply post them, and I will get to them. E-mini Sniper asks, when you use the high low and close off your cycles or using daily, you can use both. Primarily, I focus on the 24-hour high lows.
Trump says NATO nations to send minesweepers.
Okay, so that's our primary measurements. But we do have
S&P 500
data
peak
and
opened
such. You
0.6%
can
lower.
use them off the
Nasdaq
RTH.
100
They
down
both work
0.5%.
effectively. All right. I think overall,
Trump
statistically
concludes remarks to the
speaking,
press.
the overnight ranges, the Globex high lows tend to have a bit more efficacy versus the RTA session. But again, it's almost significantly insignificant, right? Statistically insignificant, that is. So you can use both, certainly. So I think Ram's, if I read your question correctly, Ram, from the cycle perspective, did it fulfill the cycles overnight? we were above the low. All right. So what are you saying? During the overnight, at some point, price was above the low, the cycle day one low. And are you asking if that actually has fulfilled the cycle statistic? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. Okay. So technically, again, Rom's asking, well, during the overnight price, in fact, was above the cycle day one low. So does that fulfill the statistic, that 93% statistic? Um, the way we look at it is price should be above the cycle day one low during regular trading hours. That's how the statistic is measured. Okay. So, again, if you want to split hairs, I suppose you could say
SPA
it,
said
it
Saudi
was above the
Arabia
cycle
have
day
not
one
discussed
low
developments
on
related to
cycle
the
day
Hormuz.
three, but really
They say
it's the RTH
they
session where
stress the
we
importance of free shipping.
measure that from.
But Saudi Arabia stressing the importance of the
Good
free
question,
shipping
though.
with Oman.
Never a dumb question.
Being highlighted by main words again now, Trump saying the US may reimpose the Hormuz blockade only for Iran.
All right, so right now we don't have a whole lot to work with for the moment. What we're looking for, one of the areas we would be looking to take a trade if we get a dip would be around the what we refer to as the 810 level, that green zone or that green level around the 88s. I don't want to put a particular price on it simply because that may move. And in the past when I've outlined specific prices, uh, again, markets can
An
move pretty
IMF official
dynamically, and
also
then,
talking about
well, I was
Somalia,
trying to get the
saying how
88s,
they
and
revised
now it's
their
the
growth forecast
92s.
for 2026 upward by 0.7 percentage
So it's
points
really the
due to the
level, the
very
zone
impressive growth in
that it
hardware
creates. So that's
exports from
currently
the
around
region.
the 88s,
US
89s,
jewelry
but
stocks fall as oil
be
prices topple
flexible on
for
that.
US-Iran
What would now
tensions.
need to happen?
United Air
All
down
right.
3.5, Southwest Air 2.1, Carnival
All right. One of the
3.1,
references we
Royal
like to
Caribbean
use is
1.1.
the
Norwegian
developing
Cruise Line
value area. Now it's
1.9,
fairly
Delta Air
wide value area right
0.7%,
now,
all down.
but we do like to frame out the price action. So right now, around the 21s, 22s, that's the current high of the developing value area, right? We would want to see, from the bullish perspective, we'd want to see prices push up above that and then hold. What is the 810? The 810 is a level that we calculate based upon the average true range. It's our own
The
proprietary
IMF official also
calculation
adds that they see a potential
of
risk
how we
from
use
a
it as
correction
well.
in the AI space,
It's basically
which
the
could affect also
the
South
10-day
Korea
average true
and
range, or the
other
10
countries.
period average true range, and we project that onto the particular chart size. We can use it on any chart size times. We use tick charts here for execution. We also look at time charts as well, 5 minute. I look at a 3 minute, of course, 60 minute over there on the left. But it's a 10 period average true range. Most everything that we do here is based on ranges.
Crypto stocks also falling.
Most all our
Coinbase Eval
calculations are
maintains
based
a
on some
strategy
sort of
down
a statistical
3%.
range. All right. So what we are waiting for here is, we don't just take willy-nilly trades. What we do currently right now, the way we're viewing this is neutral with a slight bias to the bull side, perhaps, right, coming off that low.
And
So the
Broadcom
bulls need to
shares up
continue to
4.7%
perform
following the
coming
agreement with
off that
Apple to
low,
produce
but
billions
prices
more
have,
chips.
reached a point where basically both sides are saying, let's see who wants to do, who blinks first, right, in terms of direction. Do the sellers want to drill it back lower and regain some sort of dominance that they had during the overnight? Also, remember the overnight activity. Um, it's primarily kind of faster money type activity. You don't get the big institutional players that you would during the regular trading hours. You know, the bigger mutual funds and so forth, right? That have to operate. So a lot more, and a lot of people like trading the Globex because of
It's 6
that.
p.m. Maloney
You
says,
know, you
as of
don't
now,
have the
we have
big
not been
influence of the
notified of
big
any formal
institutions,
withdrawal of US troops.
and prices can, freely move about the cabin, as I like to say. When you get into the RTH session, things get a bit thicker, right? They don't move as quickly. And of course, you also have, various predatory, algorithms that are operating during the RTH. During the Globex, it's kind of like the old days. I mean, there is some algorithmic activity, during the overnight, but there's a lot more kind of individual traders going on. So it's kind of like the old days, unlike, what we have, going on here with all the algorithms. But I don't have any bandwidth in my brain to trade the overnight. Typically by noon, I'm like semi-fried. Most of the best activity, anyways, as you all aware of, happens during the morning session. Then you get that lull during the afternoon. Occasionally, you'll have something, but I highly recommend most everybody. I know most of our community now is really focusing on trading morning sessions. I think Manny's taken today off. I think he even said he had to recharge himself. He's been burning the candle at both ends. So, uh, and that's a good thing. If you find yourself kind of feeling burnt out, take that day off. Market's going to be there.
US listed shares of Alibaba
You want to make sure when
jumping
you're in,
3%.
you're fresh, right, rested,
Axios reports that the
and
Trump admin lifts
re-energized.
restrictions
All
on
right, so right
opening
now,
buyers of
again, I
GPT
think bulls have the
5.6.
edge. If you're, nibbling on the longs, you can continue to nibble on the longs. Again, I don't have a core setup. All right. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we
This
do
is a
follow,
rehash from
a core
overnight of
protocol for
417.
trades. Right. But in terms of the current lean, the lean certainly favors longs, and so trade your plan how you wish. But we do favor early lean is favoring long. So let me just post that up. And then for those in the pit room that are unfamiliar, again, I do a lot of posting in our community, and then my assistant Allie picks that up, and then we post recaps of the day, and that acts as an educational medium, right, as well. So reviewing what we did the day before, obviously bleeds into what we are doing today. Another aspect of what we do, we're not necessarily scalpers, right? But again, the idea, I think all trades begin as kind of that scalping idea anyways, and you're taking that trade, but until the trade fully develops. But for the most part, we're not necessarily looking for, onesies and twosies. We're kind of looking for more structural moves. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking, 2, 3 points out of a trade, no question about that. But the idea is the premises of the trades tend to be we're looking for some kind of a much more larger move, right? But don't always get it naturally. But right, and here's the link for everyone to our section of our website that has all the daily trade strategies and the room recaps, the trading room recap. So if that's something you may want to kind of explore, the recaps are I think they're very educational. We have a number of our members that are actually airline pilots, and of course, they're not in our community 100% of the time. You can see why. They're up at 37,000 feet. But what they really like is they keep kind of focused on what we're doing via the daily trade strategies and then the recaps of the trading room. So I try to make that as best as I can. Jim was in the emergency room last night. Jim, holy moly! Hope everything was okay. You thought you were half dead. What happened last week? Oh, okay. What happened? Oh, okay. Blood pressure, your heart. Yeah, stress will do that to you. And of course, hopefully you eat right. But definitely, stress is a brutal killer. I know that. Take care of yourself. We want you here for a long, long time. Us Bostonians need to stick together. Doing much better. Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. So again, as you can see, we just kind of get this little, I think the market just trying to decide really what it wants to do at this stage. We're not that far from the cycle day one low. I mean, we're really about 20 handles. Let's see. Yeah, about no, actually about 10 handles. All right, from the cycle day one low. So certainly within reach of reclaiming that, but the bulls will need to pick it up a bit. All right, so long side nibbles are fine. So keep a couple things in mind. The prior low, right, which is the cycle day 2 low, is at 29.50. Right, that's what I was actually talking about in terms of about 10 handles. All right, was the prior low, but the cycle day 1 low is up at 38. Okay, so yeah. That's I was just kind of correcting myself on that. All right, so cycle day 1 is at 38.50, and the cycle day 2 low. Right, so that's the first target, is to reclaim the prior low, 29.50. Right, and for now, any pullbacks, probably to about the fives, 10 zone, right, would be open for pullback longs. We've got some high volume consolidation in that area. So again, the idea is some level of commitment, right, in this high volume node. So if we get a pullback into this area, we would at least be anticipating buyers stepping back in. All right, you can see here the developing value high, again, right up here at the edge there. We've referred to, by the way, for those that are unfamiliar with some of the terminology, you see kind of the value area here is kind of like this orangey color. All right, we refer to that as a sandbox. All right, all right. So that's kind of like the sandbox in here, just kind of the playground, where majority of the activity is. So right up there to the edge of that sandbox, or the edge of the developing value high. Okay, kind of reversing a little bit, getting a little bit of a reversal there. All right, so the pullback into this point of control zone. Let's see if the buyers again do indeed step back up. Is the opening range working? You know what? Probably what happened, Dr. Dean, was because I had it on the overnight session. It didn't. The ATA didn't trigger. That's probably what happened. So sorry about that. Yeah, I had to have had it in the RTH configuration before the opening, for that to set for the trigger. Although when you take a look at it, it would have triggered to the short side first, and then it would have gotten stopped out. So if you want, in terms of your tracking, that would be a stop out. All right, so it would have triggered first to the wait a minute, I'm sorry. Would have triggered first to the up right there on that second bar, and then would have gotten stopped out on the reversal back down below the low. Okay? So for tracking purposes, you can put it as a stop. All right, market's not giving us a whole lot of action here. And buyers did step back in right at point of control as anticipated, but just not really getting much movement out of it. So we'll just have to need exercise patience. All right, so Dr. Dean, I just kind of wrote out the little summary of that the crude oil. The bull's going to slip on the soap here. What do you think? What's the consensus? Getting a long wick off of that 60 minutes. Still have about 5 minutes left on the candle. But bulls just not really pushed it up, but not really being able to sustain a bid. So perhaps next rotation, check to the downside. Now keep in mind that ATR that we mentioned, right, did move up levels to around the 99-ish area. So we'll see if that area offers any response of interest. Guys, I'll be returning in just a moment. Just gonna use the little boys' room. I drink a lot of water and stay hydrated here during the summertime, so that requires me to step away more often. Be right back. All right, back with you. Nothing's changed. All right, so still holding into that high volume node. Still being patient here today. All right, so bull's still active on the dip. So we have that read correct at the moment. All right, anything at 10 o'clock here for to note on ecos? What do we have today? We have Wednesday. We got crude oil inventories today at 10:30. We get the 10-year note auction at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we have later on in the day we have FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock. Those are the three-starred releases today. So we're still free to move about the cabin here, but not much movement to speak of. All right, so let me know if anybody has any questions while we're kind of dogging it here. We did have a little A4 short. All right, sorry I missed that while I was away. All right, do have an A4 short triggered off. You can see here, hit first two targets, and we're going to move our stop here to pivot break even. That was an automated trade. So I think was it Philly asked earlier about what the A10 was? That was again a 10 ATR. This is a 4 ATR, so it's just much more sensitive, and it offers some decent trade opportunities as well. So you can see here that auto triggered. And then that blue line that you see here, let me just kind of expand this for a moment. All right, that blue line that you see here, yeah, let me just stop the shaking here. That blue line that you see right here, that is a break-even level. All right, that's your break-even line. So once we got in, we had two scales. We get another scale down here around the 75.10s. And once we get those scales out, we get a break-even level here that is posted. So you know exactly what basically what the break-even level is. That's the cost of your position. That's the break-even cost of your position. All right. So if it traded back up to that level, okay, the remaining contracts obviously will be stopped out, and that's essentially your break-even level. So it's an automatic break-even level to note. all calculated for you with the algorithm. All right, so we get the A4 that we're currently working, and really that's about it. So at least we got some trade on. We don't want to pitch a no hitter, do we? Yeah. So the A4 signal gives us that opportunity for some tighter ranged trades that we currently like we're experiencing now. All right, so within the context of the range, a lot of times that will trigger off and give us a tighter range opportunity. Again, not huge in terms of take profit, but enough to perhaps pay the bills a little bit. Again, the balance there is at break even stop. Everybody is trading with a stop, correct? Nobody's not putting trades on without stops, right? Stops are like safety belts. I call stop losses, I refer to stop losses as SMAs. SMA. What's SMA stand for? Save my ass. So always have a stop loss. All right, so that's scratched out on the balance. So put some money in the bank. Nothing to write home about. There you go. I like it. There you go, guys. In the pit room, Marlon just posting up again, taking a look at. Click on that link if you want to get an evaluation going. Um, the folks, over at the Pitbull, we're working on some a lot of different things that I think will benefit everyone here in the community, and we'll be announcing certain ideas and promotions and things that again, not to give away the beans. All right, but we're going to be putting out some stuff that I think will be very interesting for everybody. But definitely, I would say for everybody, right, get one of those evals. Let's all trade together. Let's see if we can pass the evals together. Got to have a little skin in the game. Don't have to have a lot of skin in the game. Have a little skin in the game. Make it fun. Make it interesting. Today is anything but interesting. I thought we would get a little bit broader rotation today, given yet last night's move down and then back up. I thought we'd get a little bit more, but boy, just kind of just sitting on it here. I think it's zero gamma, is it not? Yeah, we got a zero gamma level right here at the 75.10s is zero gamma. So you don't really have an optionable edge one way or the other here from that perspective. The volatility trigger is up at 75.40, which is our line in the sand, by the way. And of course, that was the overnight break. But here we got essentially zero gamma on the options players. So Orist over here asks, since it is a cycle day 3, and historically we are supposed to close at some point, right, above the cycle day 1 low, can we see sellers are being absorbed here? Um, yes, in terms of the move down and then the reaction off the overnight low area. Okay, so the sellers drove it down, and then those got absorbed and then returned back up. But I think here more though, it's somewhat more balanced. So we can't just ultimately uh, call it a blanket that the sellers are getting absorbed. On the flip side, the buyers are not making much progress either. Okay, so one could even say that the buyers are getting absorbed, right? So if you kind of say, well, which side is dominant right now? Well, we had the sell side push down. We got the opposite, counter move, right? By the way, Wyckoff, if there any white coffeeings in the room here, right? So this is the break, right? This is the break lower, okay? This move here is referred to as an automatic response, all right? So we got that move up, and you can see there's a pretty heavy volume in here. So are the sellers getting absorbed or are the buyers getting absorbed? I think there is absorption. I think it's on both sides at this stage. So I can't make a determinative comment that the sellers are getting absorbed, right, at this stage. I think both sides are battling it out. But yes, the odds certainly favor at some point getting back above the cycle day one low. But that said, there is still a 7% counter odd that they won't, and that certainly can happen, just not typical. But yes, good question though. Um, Can there be two absorptions at the same time? I just refer to that as balance. Getting close to that 8-10 play. Might be worthy of a probe there. Oh yeah, lots of time left today to get back to the 38s. Lots of time. But for now, buyers seem to be drifting here. Here we go. Where are we going? Are you short, Billy? Billy D? You short looking for lower? Yeah, we got stopped out on that bounce up. Rat bastards. Okay. Super. Philly D is short looking for lower. I'll find out there, John. Oh, look at that. Didn't quite get to the 810. Not yet. Anyways. So what's interesting here is take a look over here. Let me just expand this out a little bit. What I also like to, for those in the pit room, what I like to show everybody, is a lot of times what I'll suggest folks in our community is to map out the pivots. Okay, so what are those? right? And I use kind of array. So I'll take this pivot here, this pivot low, and I'll just snap a line, and then I'll take the next pivot low right in here. So this is kind of a little zone here. Okay. So what I suggest to our community quite a bit, right, is to, if you're sitting there not doing anything, you need to be doing something. I mean, in that, if you're not in a trade, well, one of the questions would be, well, where are the low pivots that I can identify, right? Where are high pivots where I can identify, right? So the lowest, the pullback lows, okay, and just map those out. In other words, just draw lines. And so a lot of times you'll see prices come, literally right down to the tick and then get a response. That's very mechanical, the way the market moves that way. Very mechanical, right? Doesn't mean it's going to hold, but again, a lot of times it'll go right down. What does this low represent? What does this low pivot represent? Low pivot. What does it represent? The way I was taught years ago, right? That's where at that moment, that's where the last seller sold. LSS, right? That's where the sellers stopped, right? All right. And again, the way I was taught it was that's where the last seller sold on that move down. That does not necessarily mean where there's the greatest amount of demand. It just means that the sellers no longer sold below that level. Of course, the sellers to that level got absorbed, and then but there was just no more sellers below that level, and then buyers, you know, pushed it back, right? So that's where the last seller sold. And the same thing for any pivot, right? This is how I was taught. This is when I was at the investment banks, right? That's where the last seller sold. And the same thing for a high pivot up here, say for instance, right? And then it reversed back down. So just to the opposite, that's where the last buyer bought. So what does that mean? Okay, I see where the last seller sold, the last buyer bought. Okay, well that marks a key level in price because there are no further interested sellers below a level or above or buyers above a level. So those levels now become key references for any future activity. Okay, so then you could say, well, look at that. You can look back and say, boy, look at again, this is where the last seller sold on this test or retest of that pivot low. So again, the idea there is there's no sellers below that level. So what the market makers love to do, of course, they love to go, grab stops. We already know that, right? That people call it liquidity grabs or stop outs or whatever you want to call it. They do love to do that, right? But they really are looking to do that at kind of key significant levels in most cases, all right? But what we can use for ourselves is having identified, again, doing the work by just identifying a pivot high, pivot low, draw some lines like I've done, and just understanding what those represent. They represent where the last seller sold, right? So a lot of times what we're happening here is I widened out the chart there for a moment, but a lot of times I'm only looking at a very small segment of the chart. I don't need to keep looking at the big, all the big picture chart like on an execution. I just need to look at the execution charts, right? And I only need a small section of it. But if you do the work and you look backwards and you draw your lines out, okay, without even having to look at that pivot or trying to identify that pivot in real time, like on the fly, you've done it already. And then so prices come down and you say, geez, there's a line there. Well, what does that line represent? Well, I know it represents a low pivot because I created it, right? So now all the heavy lifting in terms of identifying levels, okay, has been already accomplished. So when price gets down into a level like that, now you're thinking, okay, this is where the last seller sold earlier. What are they doing now in real time? So you really take a close look at that. What you may need, you may want to look at order flow, right? So we have order flow over here. Let me just punch up the order flow. You may look at what the order flow sequence. All right, what price was that? 7303. Yeah, 7503. All right. So you may look at this. Let me pull in the order flow for a moment, right? So you may look at this area on order flow, right, and see that not a lot of selling occurred, into that low, and actually this is a 17 tick, a 17 tick bar, range bar, and you can see into that low. They were still buying, even though the market kind of pulled down and they kind of popping back, right? So you get some. The idea there is this, right? You get this low, right? That price tag, we get a bounce, and then it's the retest right here, right? That you look for. If that's holding, now you may decide, hey, you know what? That low held, no sellers below that low. Okay, I'm gonna take a long and play along off of that. So again, understanding what is happening in terms of price levels and the interpretation of them can offer a trade opportunity for you. So that's kind of one of the things that, again, when I was in the investment banking world as market maker, that was one of the key things uh, that we focused on. Again, the idea, the concept of where the last seller sold or where the last buyer bought. All right, so that's in terms of a concept, in terms of pivots, which is key to a lot of what we do as well. Oh, yeah, that was the 931 low tick, Stuart. Okay, I didn't actually notice that, but thanks for pointing it out. Yeah, 931.06 opening print. All right, so now the key, we're going to retest here. We'll see again. Does it hold again? We'll see. Stuart makes a good point, by the way, right? About that 931. So you may want to also, on your charts, like we have the opening range here as well. So let's actually move over to the opening range chart for a second. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay, that's 931. Right. So, at 930 or 931, as Stuart put up there, you may want to note that, the first minute low off the opening, something like that can be key as well. I don't use it, but certainly, can be a valid reference point. I suppose anything can be a valid reference point, right? number soup. 10 o'clock high, 10:30 low, 10:30 low high. A lot of people use 60-minute high lows. I know some people use 30-minute high lows. Again, you can use whatever references you want. Key is finding a repeatable pattern that you can find some sort of an edge with. All right, the initial balance is essentially complete right now. The first hourly high low, that is currently in place. We're just basically rangy with the gap down, bounce from overnight, and then just kind of a slow drift range here, balancing out. Again, the key is now if they break below the opening range low, and that's at the 7501, 75s, right? If they can push below that and stay below that, then again, perhaps a retest of the overnight low would maybe be on deck, right, in the crosshairs. If they can hold that and kind of work their way back above the opening high, which is at 1675. Again, that would be another reference on that. But it looks like every time I got up there here on this 5-minute chart, it wicked out and came right back in. So I don't have an edge one way or the other. Yeah, stuck in the middle with you, right? So these are kind of like these are the conditions. You just wait it out. Stuck in the middle with you. Clowns to the left of me. Jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. All right, you don't want me to sing. Stop singing. What does Manny have here for a low? So we got timing for a low on Manny's clock, I think, unless I'm on the wrong. Oh, Wednesday. Oh no, that was an old. I'm sorry, I was looking at an old blueprint. Okay, so disregard that. I did not get Manny's updated clock today. Sinatra. Old Blue Eyes. Oh, really? Did he? Ace Trays yodeled. Okay. Boy, at this rate, maybe we should have a sing along. Oh, is he? He's talking about eggs. Trump's talking about eggs. The price of eggs. Do you remember the days where it was when you got the Trump tweet bomb that would just roil the market back and forth? Don't have that effect like it used to. Wow, look what's happening here, my friends. Right? That pivot line is still holding firm, isn't it? Amazing. Again, I very mechanical. Gets down there and sellers stop and move right back. That's at the O2s. Let's see how many contracts traded at the O2s. 18 contracts. I'd say there's not much interest there. Right? 18 contracts. All right. The sellers are trying to attack that level again. There it is. All right. Maybe having looks like having some success this time. All right, we did get a trigger off the A10. Let's see if that plays out for us. They're trying to break the back here, the bulls. Again, they're getting below that opening range low, so that was one of the key things we were looking for, perhaps. All right, still up to the bulls. Just missed our first take profit by a hair. My goodness. All right, so bulls got to perform. The sellers are trying to push this, break this low further. And again, you get the next pivot level down there, which I've outlined. So if they can reclaim this, they'll probably be in better shape. The sellers are pressing. You still short, Philly D? You hanging in there? Nice, just cover the double O's. Good job. All right, Philly D gets the Cupie. 10 points. 10 points in the coffers. Nice trade. Nice trade. You even held through the Trump egg trade. I don't know. Are there egg futures? All right, we're still hanging in there on the A10. We need to get that push. Grade A large eggs. There you go. All right, doesn't look like we're going to survive this one. Buyers are slipping on the soap. Oh, maybe we will. See if we'll get a kick save on this one. Nope. No kick save on that one. So we did get stopped out on that. It had a just missed the first take profit by literally a tick. Uh, Not much you can do about that. All right, so bias is changing a bit. Again, back down to this next pivot around these 92s. Not really a significant pivot. Doesn't appear to be anyways. So sellers have the ball at the moment. That was our shot to get something going off of the A10 and did not transpire. So transparency is 100% here. We don't hide anything. We don't hide under a rock and only show good trades. Yeah, they robbed me in daylight. I mean, they picked my pocket smiling while they were saying hi to me. That's right. We have plenty of good ones as well. Yeah, even if I had furnished the Vaseline, yeah. At least give me a kiss, right? I mean, if you gave me a kiss, I at least would have thought we had a connection. Call the police. We have a robbery in broad daylight. So the two-sided absorption balance for now, anyways, the sellers have won out. We'll see how far they can continue. Again, we could have a retest of lows. I mean, certainly, not out of the realm of possibility. So the overnight drop, right, is reconfirmed with the early hour consolidation and then now push lower. So just confirms that the sellers, right, still have the ball control from the overnight drop. It's the egg roll down. Looking at the candles, a lot of wicks on both sides. During that volley, for the first hour, a lot of wicks both sides. Right, so it's not like one side had total control, but obviously bulls just could not maintain that, and a lot of times they'll let it go too. You know, yes. For you fair value gap players, there is a fair value gap. Wait a minute. Oh, guess what? My Ninja Trader just disconnected again. Okay, for you guys trading Ninja Trader, let me know if you lost connectivity. This happened yesterday and happened again today. I lost connectivity. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What order do I have? Oh, yeah, yeah. I lost connection yesterday. Lost it again today. All right, hold on a second. Uh, you guys are seeing Sierra chart. I rarely get disconnected with Sierra chart. Ninja Trader, for some reason, it drops. Well, I have three data feeds. So I have CQG, I get Rhythmic, and I have Sierra charts Denali. So when I'm looking, I'm saying, okay, I lost connectivity there. Right. Well, let's reestablish connectivities. Nothing worse than you lose connectivity when you're in a trade. Anybody happen to you that way? You're in a trade, all of a sudden it's like gone. All right, I'm back online. What happens though? It messes up all my settings. Okay, I think I'm back. No harm on that one. Okay. All right, we're back. Everything's reset. Now, this was this morning's breakout level. Let me put it on the evening session. Oh, all right. So here's a 5 minute on the left. All right. Again, uh, quite often prices will come back and retest certain breakout levels. We call that the scene of the crime. Okay. So there's your breakout overnight. All right. So you had the low, a move up, a bull flag, right, and then a move up. Right. So that was overnight structure. Here we've come right back down and retested the breakout point. And guess what? That low 5 minute candle, exactly the low on this 5 minute candle on the retest. So scene of the crime, retest, successful, and we get a bounce. Right. So I guess that's what they wanted to do. Clean out some of the longs. So now this current low, really remains kind of key, right? These 85s. Um, because there was that retest. So this zone in here is the right. That is your key zone. Again, if they lose that, all right, again, it's more likely down below to these lows, and who knows beyond that, right? Right now, the Bulls have control. I mean, excuse me, the Bears. I'm sorry, Bears have control, and they would need now to at least clear back above O threes, O fives. Let's call it 7405. Uh, I'm sorry, 75. Yeah. All right. So currently, Bears have control. Again, Bulls, what they need to do is reclaim the 75. That meant 7505 to 10. Again, I misprinted that. All right, guys, I'm going to carry today through 11:30. All right, on the stream for everyone. And then keep in mind, an hour from now at noon, I believe Danny comes on at noon, or is it 12:30? So stick around a bit later on for Danny with an I. She'll guide you through the mindset maze. But we'll stick around for another half hour here and see if we can kind of reclaim some of this action. All right. So again, we'll just kind of hang out to the sell side now. Again, we do have that shift. All right. And again, I'm going to remove these lines here. That was that previous pivot area that we were talking about. So we'll clean out those lines, and we'll just kind of hang out to the sell side on bounces. Again, 75.05 to the 10s would be kind of the key zone that bulls would need to reclaim. In the meantime, all right, bounces up, you know, to the 7,500 zone area certainly can be used for probing some cells, and then see where that takes us. Right now, it doesn't look too promising from a cycle day 3 recovery perspective, does it? Not yet. We've seen stranger things happen where it does recover uh, late in the day. But right now, we're out of bounds at the moment. All right. All right, so just being patient right now. There's not much more for us to do at the moment. Again, uh, they just got to work through this area here. Let's see what the gamma stuff shows us. It's about a 50 premium right now, right? Yeah, there's a sizable gamma level right here. Strike at 74.90 ES. Strike at 74.40 SPX. So 74.90 ES. Right, there's a sizable gamma strike there. So we're starting, right here at this sub 90s here. Uh, so they got to work through the 74.90s. Uh, I have 74.40 as a strike on SPX. Well, unless the gamma guys are wrong. Uh, mm, no, I'm looking at one a bit lower. No, okay. Let's see. Right now, yeah, I'll zoom in. I'll show you. See if I can zoom in here. Right there. See where I'm pointing? Let me see if I can get a pointer going here. Hold on. This one right here. That's 74.40. And that's 74.90 ES. That's what I'm looking at. That's real time. All right. And then you got the 74.50s right here. Okay. That's basically right in where we are. You see that, Boris? That's what I'm looking at. So it has to work through this area here. All right, you see that, Boris? Yes? No? Okay, you see it? Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, just basically right in here. Right. Kind of this right in here. All right, so 74.40, 74.50, which in this case it's 74.90, right, and 7,500. This is ES. All right. This is updated every 5 minutes. Updated every five. Okay. And all right. It's just reference. I mean, it's not, just looking at it that there's, some level here that they got to eat through. But either way, the market's trying to bounce a little bit and then it gets rejected, bounce, rejected, bounce, rejected. So regardless of the level, again, none of that means that it's going to reverse. It's just, you can see that the volume is, building in this area. And so there's a fair amount of interest in this area. But when you take a look at it, we talked about this yesterday, right? In our PTG room, this is actually something very similar to this where we had a big block of volume going and the market was just kept drifting, drifting, drifting. Okay. And so even though it stopped there for a period, right, as it did over here, you can see this block of volume. Okay. It's drifting, drifting. So, it has to work through that area, but the sellers are still, engaging, right? So, and whether it's just strictly all options related or any combination across the board. So I just like to note where there's some big option strikes because typically when there are some big option strikes in various areas, the market tends to pause anyways in those areas. Sometimes reverse, but pause until they work through that area off. Oh yeah, Oris, you're referring to the daily range calculator. So Oris is saying it hit the 75%. Let me see if I can move this over. Uh, Hold on a second. Here we go. So Oris over here on our side, he just said price should just hit the 75% target. So for those in the pit room, it's just something that we have in our website is we have a daily range calculator, and this updates every 5 minutes. All right, every 5 minutes. So what this offers us is a bull and a bear target based on the various contracts, based upon the average true range. Right, 10-day average true range. This is a 10-day average true range. Okay, and this column here, this section here, all right, is 100% of the 10-day average true range. So these are the targets to the downside, to the upside, right, based upon an average true range of 96 points. And then what Horace is saying right here, 74.90 is a bear target based upon 75% of the 10-day average true range. So a lot of times what you'll find, and again, you have to do the core research on how many times, but uh, typically 75% of an average range, 10-day average range, usually get some sort of a response in that vicinity. Again, vicinity, right? But this is the actual 75% of 96 handles, and that's measured off of the current high. All right, so you take 75.63 high less 75% of 96.50 and gives us that 74.90. Pretty simple calculation, but again, it's just another reference point that the market may find some interested response, okay, in that vicinity. So very nice there, Boris, pointing that out for everybody. And these are the various tools that we have to look at, to ask if you're asking various questions, you know, hey, what's the 10-day average true range? By the way, I think everybody should know that. Maybe not, at a cocktail party that you can cite it, but certainly, on a daily basis, just what's been the 10-day average range, or what's the current 10-day average range? And we have all that information literally at our fingertips. Right? And that's free access to that particular calculator. So again, kind of you combine that, it's a data point, right? It's nothing more than a datum. You take that, maybe you're doing, looking at the options, okay, stuff there that we just went over. Maybe something on profiles that you're referencing. You just kind of put certain things together and say, okay, appears to be some sort of a potentially important area versus others. Not every area, not every level is important, right? Generally, I find where there's greatest amounts of volume, it should kind of go coincide with the importance of it as well. So again, just another datum that you kind of put things together to kind of formulate um, you know, in general, what's happening in the market, right? So with all these levels and zones that we talk about, like I said at the outset of the conversation today, okay, everybody has levels, and but not necessarily every level is important, right? The market activity at various levels and zones, that's what's going to determine whether or not it's an important level or not, right? Whether it's a floor trader pivot, a Fibonacci level, right? 3-day cycle level, whatever it may be. Okay, they're all historical levels that the markets have traversed. That's all that they are. There are no magic levels. You know, the market determines in real time whether or not a particular zone level, is they view it as continued importance. That's why when we reach levels, we got to see what happens at that level and make a determining decision on whether or not a level is getting accepted, rejected. All these levels, the sellers are dominant today after the early consolidation. All right, sellers regain dominance from the overnight. So you know now they pull back to areas. Yeah, there's going to be volume in areas, but right now sellers are dominant. So we just stay in alignment with that. We don't make inferences that, oh, we reached a key level, okay, it's going to reverse. I don't make that inference. It's obviously a potential scenario, but we need to stay focused on what is happening to price in those areas. And then should the market, you know, shift, then we'll go with shifts. So Oris asked follow-up question. So for the ATR calculations, can we just take half of the range and then add or subtract it to the open as to not wait for a high or low? You can take any, yeah, sure, that's fine. I mean that's a calculation. That again, any reference that you want. If you want to take half of the 10-day range, add or subtract it from the open, sure, nothing wrong with that, right? Um, I think one of our calculations is the open midpoint, right? 50% of the range for the opening midpoint. So yeah, that's a valid calculation as well, right? And that the next level there in terms of the downside is 74, 60, 61. So that's another um, calculation based upon the RTH opening range midpoint. Just take the midpoint, and that works as well. But again, it's just a metric, it's just a measurement, to give you some reference. How often does that actually hit? Frankly, I don't know. That would be an interesting project for somebody if you're interested to do some research on. How come that didn't trigger? Oh, damn it. Oh, crap. So sorry. I've had, I was wondering why this didn't trigger, these shorts didn't trigger. I didn't have the auto execution on here. Damn it. Sorry about that. Thought I enabled it earlier today. My apologies. I was wondering why it didn't trigger, and I was distracted with Ninja Trader. But anyways, these premium should have triggered. Damn. Sorry. Anyways, those were valid. Well, we'll make sure they're running next week. Oris also says here, but we should not mix apples and oranges. In other words, pick either ATR or the classical floor traded pivots, right? You know, if you find something that you're comfortable with and you see, various validity to it, anybody can make a case for floor traded pivots or 10-day ranges or 7-day ranges or any other thing. Anybody can make a case for it, right? We just tend to use average ranges. And again, they're average ranges, right? So in the context of an average range, it can certainly go beyond an average range, right? So that's the idea. So of course, you know, but again, there's another school of thought is another school of thought would be, the confluence of levels, different calculations, kind of collection a collection in a particular area, right? So this floor trader pivot here, ATR is there, Fibonacci's here, et cetera, right? So the combination of them all, creates a greater, confluence of potential, change. Possibly, I don't know. That's an argument people make, right? So I don't know. Right. All right, everybody, it's coming down to cutoff time here at 11:30. Again, I do want to thank everybody for your input. Appreciate it. Hopefully, you get a little bit out of this every time we show what we do, how we do things, our thought process. Okay, like I said at the outset, everybody has different styles. Stick around throughout the entire week. You'll get a good mix of everybody. Um, the way they view the markets, analyze price action. Everybody has their own individual tools that they use, which is kind of neat. So you get a little good kind of cornucopia of ideas, styles. Maybe you pick a little bit from this method and style and that method and style, and maybe incorporate it into yours. All right. Nothing is foolproof. We know that. Just put our best foot forward. And I really apologize for not having that auto X on because those should have executed there. We got the valid signals, but I was a little behind the curve on that one. I thought I had them on. I was wondering why they weren't executing. But anyways, water over the dam, as they say. So again, if you haven't, like I said, I do highly recommend giving the pitbull traders, an evaluation, even if you are trading your own real money and you haven't really considered it. It's actually interesting because doing an evaluation, whether you really need it or not, it might be a good exercise to see how disciplined you are with your trading. Because when you're trading on your own, you're trading your own money. You're not really there's no really rules. You just make your own rules. And again, whether or not you're adhering to your rules, okay, you know, you could say, well, I have rules, but I have loose rules, you know. Well, when you're doing evaluations and things, you have much more stringent rules that you would need to follow, right? So sometimes it could be a good exercise to do that. So I encourage everybody to at least, uh, take an evaluation, try it out. Of course, that obviously helps, keep the lights on for everybody here with what we're trying to accomplish in Pitbull Traders, going forward. All right, so your support there is would be most appreciated for that, for the everybody over at the Pitbull. All right, so again, you have you have the link up there. I think Marlon posted the link earlier. Uh, I'll let me repost Marlon's post. All right, yeah. So there's Marlon's reposting. So go check it out. Give it a shot. Uh, I'd like to see kind of the whole group, involved in some sort of a, maybe we again, I don't want to spill the beans, but maybe we have some challenges, right? Kind of like a challenge game. Everybody has evaluations, and then whoever wins, whoever passes their evaluations or various, you know, call them prizes, if you will. So there's a lot of things that we're kind of thinking about, but again, it would require you having an evaluation. So check it out. Give us the support, all right, and let us know how it's working out for you. All right. All right. I'm going to end the stream here. Thanks again for your participation, and keep in mind, stay tuned. Danny is coming up. Danny with an I, for the trader development mindset and mind meld. It's the mindset mind meld, the Vulcan mind meld. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you again.